AI voice is finally here. It's genuinely at a point now where it sounds
So is this something you've been working on for a while, or is it more of a recent goal for you?
very close to a real human. And this is so exciting because the prompts you use in your AI voice is what determines how effective that AI voice actually is. And AI voice has now got to a point where it honestly, at sometimes it can sound indistinguishable to a human. It's getting so good, it's only going to get better. And in this video, I want to talk you through the exact prompting structure we use to make sure that AI voice we build for our agency clients and their clients works in the best way. And as you're aware, the best thing about AI voice is that it doesn't have sick days, it doesn't take time off, it's 24/7, and it can actually follow exactly what you tell it. No more having to handhold your setters and try and get them to do the basic tasks right, they're making mistakes, all that rubbish. This is finally here and it's working so well. And for anyone that's on the fence, I want to play a really quick recording. This was from a database reactivation lead that I've just heard, and I thought it was incredible, and I really want to share it with you guys. So just let's quickly listen to this.
Hey Ken, it's Gary from Anywhere Fitness. You'd reached out about our training program a while ago, and I thought
it was a while ago.
Yeah, totally. It's been a bit. I just wanted to check in since we've got a few new spots open. What was it that spiked your interest back then?
I don't know, just a really good looking Facebook feed.
Haha, yeah, our team does a great job with that. So, what's the main thing you'd like to improve? Like weight loss, toning up, or just getting fitter?
Brother, I'm 57 years old, so I was at the time I was just looking at just thinking about not necessarily getting healthy, but just getting some strength in my core, my shoulders, kind of repairing my body in a good way.
That makes total sense, Ken. So is this something you've been working on for a while, or is it more of a recent goal for you?
Something I've been thinking about for a while and just don't have the motivation to freaking follow through on it.
Yeah, I hear you. Motivation can be the toughest part, honestly. Have you tried anything for your core or shoulders in the past, or is this something you're just starting to look into now?
It's just something I'm starting to look into now. Finance, economics plays a huge role into it. I mean, you guys are worth what you provide. I get that.
Yeah.
But I don't know what you guys do isn't cheap.
Yeah, totally get that, Ken. So our prices, right, they kind of depend because everything's built around your goals and schedule and also the training you're after. It's like asking what a doctor visit costs before you've been seen. The discovery sessions where we figure that out together. What's been the hardest part?
You are very good at this.
Thanks, Ken. I appreciate that. So, what makes you want to get started right now? Like, is there something that's pushing you to finally look into this?
Well, not being tired. I mean, I work from 5:30 to 4:30 every day, so I'm tired. So, just having the energy to do it is a challenge.
Yeah, that's totally understandable. Long days like that can really drain you. So, just to make sure I've got this right, you want to build up your core and shoulders, but with your work hours and low energy.
Core and shoulders, but again, 57, I want to see some results. I don't know. Someone told me once that at my age, you can't build muscle anymore.
Oh, I hear that a lot, Ken, but honestly, it's just not true. Tons of our members are in their 50s and 60s, and they see real progress.
Okay, so let's go with the assumption I'm way open to this. What are you looking at? What are you offering here?
So it's basically a short in-person discovery session where you meet a coach, tour the studio, talk through your goals, and figure out what next step makes sense for you. It's super relaxed, nothing intense or anything. Would you be open?
I can set something up for next Wednesday.
Awesome, Ken. So
that's the Anytime Fitness in Niles, right there in the Oakville Mall.
Actually, we're Anywhere Fitness, just to clarify. We're at 7650 West Hill.
Wait, you're Anytime or Anywhere?
Good question. Yeah, I'm with Anywhere Fitness, not Anytime. We're right near Pine Ridge.
Anywhere is the one that you're on Tui, right?
Yeah, exactly. We're on Tui Avenue.
Oh shit, you're with Jim.
Yeah, that's right. Jim's one of our coaches here. So and
Jim is the guy. Jim is the guy I know. All right, let's set something up for Wednesday around 10 o'clock in the morning.
That's great, Ken. So for next Wednesday,
So I'll pause it there because it just books the appointment after that, right? But you can hear there's definitely times you can tell it's AI, right? When it does the laugh, it goes ha-ha, like stuff like that, right? But what I love about this is that you'll notice that it's a very natural conversation flow, right? And so what happens there is like, as the AI is talking, the lead will be like, yeah, it'll say things. And the bot doesn't just stop. It's not like trying to listen in. So what we've built into this is we're able to tell it that if someone gives like yes or awesome, or they give some sort of positive response, that doesn't mean they want to interrupt the conversation. It means you want to continue the conversation, right? And the other thing to mention here as well, with this, you can't hear it in the recording, but it's actually like the keyboard clicking sound in the background. So whenever there's like these little gaps and there's like little latency issues which happen sometimes with AI, then it sounds like the person's just taking notes. So it sounds like they're typing on the keyboard, and so the person doesn't interrupt. The person's like, hello, are you still there? Because of the keyboard clicking sound. So hopefully, if you're like an AI skeptic, hopefully this has somewhat convinced you. And in this video, what I want to do is talk you through our prompting structure so you can try and build this out yourself. And if you're an agency owner and you don't want to learn to build this all out yourself because there's a lot of infrastructure, it takes a lot of time to learn all this stuff and work it all out. I have a white label AI voice agency which only works with agencies like yourselves. And what we do is we build out all these agents for your clients so you can literally just white label it to your clients, get them way more booked appointments, just way better results without having to manage all the setters and that kind of stuff. And we do all the heavy lifting for you. But if you do want to learn it yourself, that's why you're here, which is awesome. I want to share with you how we build our AI voice prompts. So let's jump straight in. So with the AI prompting, any kind of AI, you have two types of prompting. You have conversational prompting, and then you have something called one-shot prompting. Okay, an example of conversational prompting is something that you do with ChatGPT whenever you're asking it questions, right? So what do? So you send an initial prompt to ChatGPT, right? It might be asking them to write some copy for you. They might be asking them to just a basic question, whatever it is, right? Then what happens is ChatGPT gives you an answer to that prompt, gives you a response, right? And then you give it another message back. Oh, I'm not, make this shorter, make this sound better, do this differently, blah, 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 right? And what that does is you're trying to improve the output that it's giving you, okay? Then it gives you another response and you just keep recycling this whole thing. This is an example of conversational prompting, okay? You're literally having a conversation with it and you're trying to get the best prompt out of it with your initial prompt, and you're basically redoing the prompt over and over by giving it these small changes, and over time it will just get better and better, and eventually you can just engineer a perfect response by having conversation back and forth, right? Then you got something called one-shot prompting. One-shot prompting is a little bit different. So with one-shot prompting, you get one shot to generate the best response, and that's it. Like, you can't keep having conversations with it, right? So for example, AI voice prompting, that is an example of one-shot prompting, right? What you're doing is you're building one prompt, it then has the conversation with the lead, right? And you have one chance to get that right. You can't, in the middle of the conversation while it's talking to the lead, be like, oh, say this differently, say that differently. It doesn't matter. They're on the phone. Like, it's one shot. You get one shot to get it right, okay? You can make adjustments after, but you cannot make adjustments during the actual live conversation, okay? And AI voice, all AI voice uses one-shot prompting. And the key for AI voice is being able to nail that one-shot prompt the best you can, okay? Honestly, you can get 80% of the way there just by going to ChatGPT and being like, hey, can you please write me a prompt for AI voice? I want to do this. And it'll get like 80% of the way there, right? But the remaining 20% of that is what takes an AI from, oh, this kind of sounds like AI, to what you just heard, which is like, wow, I couldn't even really tell that was AI. And most people can't tell it's AI, right? It's that 20% which gets you to that next level of the AI voice, right? And the problem is that to get to that 100% perfect AI prompt, it's exponentially harder. Each percentage point that you add onto that 80%, it gets harder and harder and harder, okay? And so eventually when you get to like the 90%, 95% mark, it just starts getting really difficult. And you start over-engineering the prompts, you start having prompt hallucinations. AI hallucinations, essentially you give so much information to it, it just starts making random stuff up because you just got so much in there. So you wanna make sure you keep your prompt as short as you can and as succinct as you can, right? But still making sure you can get to that 95%, 100% perfect AI prompts, right? But however, AI is probabilistic, right? What that means is that let's say you get one of your prompts to 95%, right? 95% perfect prompts, right? That still means that 1 out of 20 times your agent's going to screw up. It's going to just say something silly, or it's going to kind of connect the wrong way, or it's just going to interrupt people, or whatever it is. It's still going to fail 1 out of 20 times, which kind of sounds crazy, right? But that's if you've got a 95% perfect prompt, and that 95% is very hard to get to. We've been able to get to that 95%. We've been able to get higher than that, to be honest with you. But the thing about it is that a perfect prompt doesn't exist. There's never going to be a prompt which is like 100% perfect and it will never fail, because that's the way AI is built. It's all probabilities. It's like, even with ChatGPT, if you asked it what's 1 + 1, right? Even with the smartest model, right? If you ran that a billion times, like just one of them times, we'll get it wrong. Because obviously it's 99.9999999. Such a basic thing like 1 + 1, right? It's 99.999999999% gonna get it right. But there's that one very, very small chance where it's still gonna get it wrong. And that's why with the prompts, you've got to make sure you make them as clean as possible. And even when you get them absolutely perfect, you're still gonna struggle to get them over to that 100%. You're never gonna get there, right? But what I want to do is give you some of the lessons I've learned working with hundreds of agency owners, building out prompts, building out all the AI voice for all their clients, all that kind of stuff. What I want to do is give you some advice to get you as close as possible to that perfect prompt, right? Our AI voice prompting has 3 sections, okay? The role of the agent, which is the personality. We then have the objective of the agent. What's the agent actually trying to achieve? And then we have the steps to follow. So how does that AI voice actually achieve the objective we're trying to do? What are the steps to follow? Okay. And here's a quick example role, right? So the assistant is a friendly, empathetic, and professional receptionist calling on behalf of ABC Dental, let's say, right? The assistant follows up with leads who inquired about dental implants but were not reached within 24 hours. The assistant's role is to transfer interested callers to a live treatment coordinator and not have clinical discussions. An example objective. So smoothly transfer, and this is a live transfer, right? So this is the beautiful thing about AI voice. You can have it either book the appointment directly, you can either have it send deposit links, and you can have something like Closebot connect in there and follow up with the conversation and get the deposits come through, or you can just live transfers to your human team or to your client's receptionist, however you want to run it, right? We can do all this stuff for you, which is great. And so with this particular objective example, we want to transfer the call to a live treatment coordinator who can discuss pricing and timelines, explain the free consultation package, guide them on suitability options and next steps. And here's the steps to follow example. So again, this is just a basic example. I want to try and keep this like as simple as possible for people that are relatively new to AI voice. We're giving it agree to the introduction, we're gauging the interest, we transition to the coordinator, we're then trying to transfer them, and if the transfer fails, we then have a backup plan. What happens after that? Okay, feel free to pause this video and read this. It's absolutely fine. The reason why steps work so well, so you can't just tell your AI voice do this random stuff, right? You've got to give it really clear steps to follow, and the reason for that is it stabilizes the model's behavior. Okay, and a real life example of this, imagine you've got a CSM, right, a customer success manager, and imagine a client's kicking off and they're complaining about something, right? And if you just tell your CSM, hey, jump on the call, just handle the client, just handle it, right? That's essentially what you're telling your AI voice to do when you just give it some super basic thing and you're not giving it clear steps to follow, right? But then compare that to telling your CSM a clear structured framework to follow on how to handle client complaints, right? You tell them, right, I want you to jump on the call, I want you to build rapport with them. That's the first thing you've got to do, right? Then you've got to identify the problem. What's the actual issue that's happening? What's the problem that's going on with the account, or what's actually happening, right? Empathize with their situation, make sure you really appreciate what's going wrong and make sure that you can actually understand where they're coming from, and then offer a solution and then set clear expectations moving forward. So you want to make sure this doesn't happen again, make sure you give them a solution and give them clear expectations moving forward, right? With this stuff, does this make your CSM any smarter? No, it doesn't. So structuring your prompt in this way with the steps to follow, does that make the LLM smarter? It doesn't make it smarter, right? It doesn't make it any different, right? But what it does do, it just prevents them from missing critical piece of information while handling the client, okay? And this is the exact same thing with AI voice. So with a checklist, what you're actually doing is you're reducing ambiguity, you're limiting the decision making, right? If you give really vague steps and you just tell your AI, handle this, or whatever you want to tell it, right? It's going to start just making random decisions on things because it's going to be pulling all the information it has, it's going to be pulling its AI knowledge, and it's just going to be doing random things which you might not want it to do, okay? So you want to make sure that you can limit its decision making to very clear steps that it needs to follow. You lock down the conversation flow, right? Rather than the AI going on a complete tangent and start asking random things which it shouldn't be asking, or whatever it is, by doing it in this format, you're making it very clear to the AI, I want you to follow these steps, and it will just follow that process the whole way through. You also provide a predictable pattern flow, right? So for example, if your lead starts asking some objections about pricing, or they start asking questions, which the AI obviously in the prompt can see later down on the conversation flow, that's when it's actually going to be able to answer them questions, right? It can either say something like, oh yeah, that's a great question, let me ask you these questions first and I can get you straight back to that, or it can just answer the questions, but it knows that later on it's also going to be handling that, and so it can tie the whole conversation to make sure it flows smoothly to the bit where it actually answers them questions, right? And that's why having a really clear role for the agent, right, giving it a personality, what's it actually trying to achieve, what's the whole purpose of this call, and then following a very clear structure on steps to follow on how to do this and when certain parts of the conversation are going to be happening and all that kind of stuff, even if like something fails, right? So for example, if we try to live transfer but then the live transfer fails because the receptionist isn't available, then what do we do, right? Giving it clear steps to follow so it doesn't have to make things up and make things up on the spot. What it also does is massively reduces latency. The more you can feed the agent in a very clear structure, right, it doesn't have to think so much. If you don't give it a clear structure to follow, it has to think way more, and that means that's an extra half a second added to the latency. So by giving it a clear structure to follow in this framework, you actually massively reduce the latency on the AI voice as well, which is great. And also the other thing to add in here is all the FAQs. If you've got a bunch of FAQs that you can add to the voice agent, then that way the agent hasn't got to make things up on the spot. First of all, the information it gives is just more accurate, right? The second thing is it hasn't got to think so much because it's already got the information there. So again, the latency is reduced, which is very, very powerful. So from a very simplistic point of view, that's exactly how we build our prompts, right? Obviously, when we're building it out in real life, there's way more we add to this. We engineer it and depending on what the client's needs are, what the client's trying to achieve, even like the infrastructure. So it's like, if we try and live transfer, but that doesn't answer, do we want the Closebot to try and kick in? Do we want this to happen? Do we just want to book the appointment? If there's no available slots, then what does it do, right? All them stuff has to be put in there as well. And we can engineer so much things, even when it comes to like like filler words, when it comes to background noise, when it comes to just the conversational flow, even the way it says certain things. So for example, with another client that we have, there's a bit in there where we ask them, do you have 2 minutes to speak right now, right? Sometimes that's good to put in there, sometimes it's not. It depends on what you want to do. That's the other cool thing about this whole system, is that I've got a ton of experience working with some massive agencies, building out their call centers like Jim Launch and some other guys. And so I bring all that knowledge with me. And so I actually give the advice on how to best structure the scripts to make sure we can get the most booked appointments, right? So for example, in this situation, we had a bit where we asked them, do you have 2 minutes to speak right now? But the way we say, we don't just say, do you have two minutes to speak right now? We actually change the tonality of the agent when it says that. So it says something like, do you have like 2 minutes to speak right now? Right? And it's just the way it asks that, it just sounds so much more friendly and natural rather than just, do you have 2 minutes to speak right now? So all these little things can be adjusted in the prompt as well, which is really, really good. And one more thing I want to quickly just throw in this. This isn't really about the prompt, but it's more about the actual infrastructure. And so with the AI voice, and I'll make a whole other video diving into this really deep, but I think it's really good for people just to understand this right now. So when a call comes in, there's 3 separate actions we need to do. We need to do the in-call actions, the pre-call actions, and the post-call actions, right? So for example, the in-call, the conversation taking place. What should it say? When should it say it? All that kind of stuff. You then got pre-call. So for example, calendar availability, right? What we had previously when we first started this is that we found that the AI agent would get on the call, it would go for the whole qualifying, it would do a really good call. And then what would happen is once it tries to put the appointment in, it needs to go into Go High Level and actually check the calendar availability, right? That might take 10 seconds. And we were like, well, this 10 seconds is taking too long. Like, yes, it's keyboard clicking in the background, so it sounds like the person's just like looking for the appointment and stuff like that. It wasn't too bad, but the problem is with it, if you want to try and reduce that as much as possible. So we started building out something called a pre-call action, right? The pre-call action is essentially as soon as the call takes place, what actions do we need to do to make sure we're ready for the rest of the call? And part of that was looking at the calendar availability. So as soon as the call was answered, we're actually already in the background looking at the calendar availability so we can get that before the agent even gets to that point of the call. And so when the agent does get to that point of the call, it already knows the availability of the calendar. It can literally just be like, oh, I've got 10 a.m. tomorrow, I've got 11 a.m. tomorrow, what works best for you? And yes, there is a very small downside to this, which is if someone within that 3-minute conversation, if someone books that appointment in, for example, 10 a.m. tomorrow, if the AI voice is speaking to someone else and they book in that 10 a.m. slot, then that 10 a.m. slot is no longer available, but the agent will think it's still available because it looked at it at the beginning of the call, right? That's the only downside to that. And then you have something called post-call. So post-call is like adding tags, adding to workflows, and sending emails, whatever you want to do. Once the agent's finished the conversation, what action do we want it to take? And that's the post-call action. What I'll do is I'll put the example script down below this video so you can copy it and you can play around with it, do whatever you want. Hopefully this gave you a good, simple breakdown of how we structure our prompts for our AI voice clients. And it gives you a great framework to start playing around with AI voice yourself if you want to do it for your own company. If you've got any questions, please comment down below. And if you want to see more content like this, make sure to subscribe and I'll see you on the next one.